You know the story. Guy starts a company in his garage, works hard, gets rich. The American dream. That's the Jeff Bezos story everyone tells. And it's bullshit. Not completely, but mostly. Because the garage story is marketing. It's a narrative designed to make success seem accessible, relatable, like anyone could do it. But the real story of how Bezos got rich, it's not inspirational, it's strategic, calculated, and built on advantages most people will never have. Today, I'm giving you the complete lore, the full timeline, from childhood to centibillionaire. And by the end, you'll understand why the garage story is the least important part. Let's start at the beginning. Chapter 1, Origin, the early advantages nobody talks about. Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen is born January 12, 1964. His biological father leaves when he's a toddler. His mother remarries Miguel Bezos, a Cuban immigrant who adopts Jeff and gives him his name. This is where the media loves to focus. Immigrant stepfather, humble beginnings, the classic narrative. But here's what they skip. Miguel Bezos worked for Exxon, high-level engineer. The family was upper middle class, not wealthy, but comfortable. Jeff grows up in Houston, then Miami, then eventually settles in Miami. His grandfather owns a ranch in Texas. Summers spent there. Manual labor, fixing fences, working cattle. The media plays this up. Blue-collar work ethic, grit. But the ranch is 25,000 acres. His grandfather was a regional director for the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. This isn't poverty. This is privilege with a ranch. Jeff is smart, exceptionally smart, valedictorian of his high school, national merit scholar, gets into Princeton, and this is the first major advantage people gloss over. Princeton, not a state school, not community college and transfer. Princeton, one of the most elite universities in the world. The network alone is worth millions. But Bezos doesn't study business. He studies electrical engineering and computer science. Graduates summa cum laude, 1986. He's 22 years old, brilliant, connected, and about to enter one of the most lucrative industries at the most lucrative time in history, finance. Chapter 2, Wall Street, the unsexy foundation of his wealth. Bezos doesn't start Amazon right out of college. He goes to Wall Street. First stop, Fettel, a fintech startup building a network for international trade. He's a programmer. Then he moves to Bankers Trust, then D.E. Shaw and Company. And this is where the story gets interesting, because D.E. Shaw isn't just a hedge fund. It's one of the most sophisticated quantitative hedge funds in the world. They use algorithms, computer models, mathematical strategies to trade. Bezos is senior vice president by age 30. Youngest person to ever reach that level at the firm. He's making high six figures, maybe low seven. He's meeting billionaires, learning how capital works, how markets work, how to think in systems and scale. This is the real education, not Princeton, Wall Street. And here's the thing nobody mentions. Bezos didn't quit finance to start Amazon because he had a dream. He quit because he saw data. In 1994, he reads a report that internet usage is growing at 2,300% per year, not 23%, 2,300. And his brain, trained in quantitative analysis, immediately sees the opportunity. This isn't passion. This isn't following your dreams. This is cold calculation. He sees a market growing faster than any market in history, and he wants a piece. Chapter 3, The Decision, how the garage story actually starts. Bezos is 30 years old, making serious money, working at one of the best hedge funds in the world, and he's about to walk away, but not alone. His boss, David Shaw, tries to talk him out of it. They go for a walk. 2 hours. Shaw tells him, "This internet thing is interesting, but you have a great career here. Why risk it?" And Bezos explains his framework, the regret minimization framework. He imagines himself at 80 years old, looking back, and he asks, will I regret trying this and failing? Or will I regret never trying at all? The answer is obvious. He quits. But here's what the garage story leaves out. He doesn't quit broke. He has savings. He has connections. And most importantly, he has family money. Bezos asks his parents for an investment. They give him $300,000 in 1995. That's worth about $600,000 today. His parents aren't broke. They're retired Exxon executives with serious savings, and they believe in him enough to risk it. This is advantage number 2. Most people can't ask their parents for $300,000 because their parents don't have $300,000. So Bezos and his wife Mackenzie pack everything into a car and drive from New York to Seattle. Why Seattle? Not because of the tech scene, not because of the culture, because of taxes. Washington has no state income tax, and Seattle is close to one of the largest book distributors in the country. Bezos had already decided the first product would be books, not because he loved books, but because books were the perfect test product. Infinite SKU, low weight, high margins, easy to ship. This is strategic thinking, not passion. They rent a house in a Seattle suburb. The garage becomes the office, and this is where the myth gets built. Man in garage builds billion-dollar company, but the garage lasted weeks, maybe a few months. As soon as Amazon started getting traction, they moved into real office space. The garage story is symbolic, not literal, but symbolism sells. So that's the story everyone tells. Chapter 4. The Build. The unsexy grind nobody wants to hear. Amazon launches July 1995. It's an online bookstore. The website is ugly. The technology is basic, but it works. And within a month, they're shipping books to all 50 states and 45 countries. Bezos isn't coding anymore. He's packing boxes. He and Mackenzie and a handful of employees are working 20-hour days, packing orders, shipping books, answering customer emails. This part is real. The grind is real. But here's what people miss. Amazon loses money for years. 1996. Revenue is $15.7 million. Net loss, $6.2 million. 1997. They go public. IPO at $18 per share. Raises $54 million. Revenue is $147 million. Net loss, $31 million. 1998. Revenue is $600 million. Net loss, $124 million. 1999. Revenue is $1.6 billion. Net loss, $720 million. They're growing revenue exponentially, but they're bleeding cash. Most companies would die, but Bezos has something most founders don't: access to capital and a vision investors believe in. This is advantage 3. Bezos isn't funding Amazon from profits. He's funding it from venture capital. From Wall Street connections he made at D. Shaw. He raises money, lots of it, and he tells investors the same thing every time. We're not optimizing for profit. We're optimizing for growth. We're building infrastructure. Once we have scale, profit will follow. And investors believe him because he has credibility, Princeton degree, Wall Street pedigree, the ability to communicate complex strategy in simple terms. This is not a garage entrepreneur begging for money. This is a former hedge fund VP with elite credentials pitching a calculated bet. Chapter 5. The expansion. From books to everything. By 2000, Amazon is still losing money. The dot-com bubble bursts. Stock drops from $106 to $6. Analysts say Amazon is doomed, but Bezos doesn't panic. He doubles down. He expands. Music, electronics, toys, tools, everything. And he does something brilliant, something most people don't understand. He builds the infrastructure first. Most e-commerce companies outsource logistics. They use third-party warehouses, third-party shipping. Amazon builds its own. Bezos spends billions on fulfillment centers, robotics, inventory systems, software. It looks insane. The company is already losing money, and now they're spending more. But Bezos understands something fundamental. Logistics is the moat. If Amazon controls the entire supply chain, they can deliver faster, cheaper, and more reliably than anyone else. And once they have that infrastructure, they can offer it to other sellers. This becomes fulfillment by Amazon. FBA. Sellers pay Amazon to store and ship their products. Amazon takes a cut, and suddenly Amazon isn't just a retailer. They're a platform. They're taking a percentage of every transaction that flows through their system. This is the move that changes everything. Chapter 6. AWS, the accidental cash machine. While building Amazon's retail infrastructure, Bezos realizes something. They've built one of the most sophisticated cloud computing systems in the world to handle millions of transactions, billions of page views, peak traffic during holidays, and most of the time, that capacity sits unused. So in 2006, Amazon launches AWS, Amazon Web Services. They rent out their computing power to other companies. It's a side project, an experiment. Nobody thinks it'll be big, but by 2010, AWS is generating billions in revenue. And unlike retail, AWS is profitable. High margins, recurring revenue, low overhead. By 2020, AWS generates $70 billion per year, and it's the most profitable part of Amazon, more profitable than all of retail. This is the hidden lore, the part of the Bezos story nobody talks about. Amazon retail is the front, the thing everyone sees, but AWS is the money printer. It funds everything else, the losses in retail, the investments in new markets, the acquisitions, Whole Foods, Twitch, Ring, MGM, all funded by AWS cash flow. Bezos didn't get rich from selling books. He got rich from renting computer servers. Chapter 7. The Playbook. How Bezos actually thinks. Here's what people miss about Bezos. He's not a product guy. He's not obsessed with design or user experience the way Steve Jobs was. He's a systems guy. He thinks in loops, flywheels, mechanisms. His strategy is simple. Lower prices attract more customers attract more sellers. More sellers mean more selection. More selection attracts more customers. The loop feeds itself, and every loop makes Amazon harder to compete with. He calls this the virtuous cycle, and once it starts, it's almost impossible to stop. But the cycle requires one thing: cheap capital. Bezos can only lower prices if he's willing to lose money, and he can only lose money if investors keep funding him. This is why the Wall Street experience mattered. Bezos knows how to talk to investors. He knows how to frame losses as investments. He knows how to sell the vision. And for 2 decades, investors believed him. Even when Amazon was losing billions, even when analysts called it overvalued, investors held. Because Bezos convinced them he was building something bigger than a bookstore. He was building the everything store. Chapter 8. The Wealth Explosion. How a founder becomes the richest man alive. Bezos owns about 10% of Amazon by the time it goes public. As the stock price climbs, his net worth climbs. 2000, he's worth $2 billion. 2005, $10 billion. 2010, $12 billion. 2015, $50 billion. 2018, $150 billion. He's the richest person in the world, not because Amazon retail is profitable, but because investors believe it will be, eventually, and because AWS is printing money in the background. But here's the real wealth hack. Bezos doesn't sell stock. He borrows against it, just like the buy, borrow, die strategy from the personal finance iceberg. His Amazon stock is worth $150 billion, but if he sells it, he pays capital gains tax, 20% federal, maybe more with state. So instead, he borrows. Banks will lend him money at low interest rates using his stock as collateral. He can borrow $1 billion, live off it, pay almost no tax on it, because borrowed money is an income, and the stock keeps growing faster than the interest rate. He never has to sell, he never pays the tax. When he dies, his heirs get a step up in basis. The tax disappears. This is how billionaires work. This is the game. Chapter 9. The Divorce and the Final Form. 2019. Bezos and Mackenzie divorce. She gets 25% of his Amazon stock. Worth about $38 billion. It's the most expensive divorce in history. But Bezos still has 75%. He's still worth over $100 billion. And the divorce does something unexpected. It frees him. He steps down as CEO in 2021, stays on as executive chairman, focuses on Blue Origin, his space company, The Washington Post, which he bought in 2013 for $250 million. His philanthropic efforts. Day One Fund. Bezos Earth Fund. He's transitioned from operator to investor. from CEO to icon. And here's the final piece of lore people miss. Bezos didn't get rich from Amazon's profits. Amazon didn't turn a consistent profit until recently. He got rich from stock appreciation, from investors believing the story, from AWS subsidizing everything else, and from financial engineering, using leverage, using tax optimization, using the system exactly as it was designed, for people with assets, for people with capital, for people who understand the game. Epilogue: what the lore actually teaches you. The Bezos story is not the garage story. It's the elite education story, the Wall Street connection story, the $300,000 family investment story, the access to capital story, the infrastructure obsession story, the AWS accidentally becomes a money printer story, the buy, borrow, die, never pay taxes story. That's the real lore, and none of it is replicable for normal people. You can't go to Princeton. You probably can't ask your parents for $300,000. You probably can't raise venture capital from elite hedge funds. You probably can't lose billions of dollars for a decade while investors wait for you to figure it out. But here's what you can learn. 1. Advantages compound. Bezos had advantages at every step. Education, connections, capital. He used every single one. 2. Infrastructure is underrated. The boring stuff matters. Logistics, systems, operations. That's where the real moat is. 3. Losing money is fine if you're building something that scales, but only if you have the capital to survive. 4. The hidden businesses are often more valuable than the main business. A WS makes more profit than retail. 5. Wealth comes from asset appreciation, not income. Bezos' salary was $80,000 per year. His stock is worth $150 billion. 6. Financial engineering matters. The way you structure ownership, taxes, and capital determines outcomes as much as the business itself. The Bezos lore isn't inspirational, it's instructional. It shows you how the game is actually played at the highest level. And if you're smart, you take the lessons, not the mythology. If this breakdown changed how you see the Bezos story, hit that like button. And if you want more lore breakdowns on how billionaires actually got rich, not the PR version, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because the stories you've been told are marketing. The real stories are strategies. And I'm going to keep uncovering them. I'll see you in the next one.